So you want to make 2024 your year. That's completely fine. But that's also the same thing you said last year and the year before that. And it's okay if you sound like a broken record. We've all been there. But I just want to highlight some things to you that you might want to drop. I've heard the quote before being said that if you want to travel far, you have to pack light. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about in this video. There are so many things that can burden you on your journey towards whatever goals you have for yourself. But in terms of living an amazing life that you are proud of, one of the things that you need to drop is having a savior complex. I've struggled with this one for a long time, wanting to save people and sometimes at your own predicament. So back to number one, having a savior complex. Can we please not do that anymore? I don't know who told us that we need to prove our worth by fixing people, helping people. You actually don't, and it's one of the most tiresome things to do. I'm at the point in my life where I recognize that I don't have as much energy that is saved for people who aren't going to be helpful or who are going to end up draining me. And that realization isn't out of pride. It's just like I have an unyielding attitude now towards people that will drain me or stress factors. If I don't have to go through it, why should I place the burden on myself? Having a savior complex can really weigh you down. I just had a PTSD flashback, but it can really weigh you down. You don't even recognize it as it's happening until one day you're an empty shell of yourself and it creeps up on you very slowly. And before you know it, you are fully fledged into being someone's shadow almost. And it's something that I would strongly urge you to get rid of as you move into the next year if you really want to make it count. Following closely, the second thing that you need to drop to make your life a lot easier and to make your year count is exposing yourself to toxic people. Just like the savior complex, at first it might not seem detrimental, or you might not realize just how draining it is, but once you have continued exposure to the same bad thing over and over, it drains you. I could actually give you an example. There's a reason why they say that bad company corrupts good morals. It isn't that the good morals aren't strong enough, it's just that bad company and negative energy in general has a very unique ability to press hard and to push to a corner anything that it comes by. Negative energy is rarely complacent. It's always got to come with drama. It's always got to come with a little bit of cattiness. There's an anger there or a bitterness there that's stored, and the person who receives it is the person who's willing to receive it. Having toxic friends and even having toxic family that you are continually exposed to is so draining. You literally go for lunches and family functions and things of that nature, sitting down and feeling like, oh my God, how much longer do I have to be here? And it's one thing when it's people that you don't have to talk to every day, but it's a whole other thing when it's actual family that you might have some kind of obligation towards. And something I think that can help anybody moving forward into carving the circles for them is, do you enjoy being around the people that you're surrounded by? I was having an epiphany one time. I was just sitting, and I know I usually say these things, it's like I'm just sitting somewhere and then something comes, but literally that's exactly how it happened. I think I was probably just done praying, or I was just talking to God in my mind, and something that occurred to me is that I wasn't happy, and I was happy on the outside, but I wasn't experiencing joy. And what does enjoy mean? To enjoy something means to be means that you are in joy, you are in a constant state of joy, and being in that place makes you really feel great from the inside. And that's something that you have to ask yourself. Are your friends making you feel that? Are you making them feel bad? Are you the drama? Are you the enemy? Are you the problem? Because so many times we want to look outside and say, this person did this, that person did this, but you should also ask yourself, what do they identify in you that they feel so comfortable to have that bad energy within you? Is it your fixer tendencies? Is it the fact that you're negative as well? I think it's a very important thing to carve out your circle with intention, because you're an average of the 5 people that you are most surrounded by. Your 5 closest friends, the people that you interact with, you are an average of all those people. And we are gravitated towards the people and the places that we go to because there's a likeness. Like attracts like. Physics says different, but let's ignore that for now. But like attracts like. So if you are constantly surrounded by negative people who always pick at you, who always make you feel bad about who you are, maybe you are just too complacent, or maybe you're just too acquiescing. You allow people to walk all over you. I think you probably get my drift. The third thing that we need to leave in 2023 is acute unforgiveness. Unforgiveness at all, really, if you think about it, because unforgiveness is just such a plague. Once you have it in your heart, once you have offense in your heart towards anyone, whether or not you are justified, it's very difficult to establish peace after that. People hurt us in so many ways. Could be a heartbreak, maybe somebody cheated on you, could be business betrayal, someone scammed you and took away your life's worth of savings. And those situations are really difficult to navigate. But unforgiveness is so difficult. I'm going to share a story. Sometime last year, I started feeling God giving me some kind of what I would call a Damascus shake. That's like when it feels like a representation of your shoulders being shaken, and it's almost as if you are being prompted into a direction, one that you probably don't want to take, one that is probably the direct, complete opposite of what you probably want to do. And I was feeling those moments a lot. And funny enough, it happened when I decided to rekindle my relationship with God, since, a girl had been living a little crazy. Okay, not so crazy, but whatever I'm trying to say is that I had a moment where I felt more drawn towards cultivating my relationship with God, and it felt as if now that I had surrendered my will, and now that I had laid all my cards on the table, like, those little prayers you make, like, oh God, if this person isn't for me, take them away, and then that door closes so fast. Or if I'm meant to do this, God, your will and not mine. Your will and not mine. You gonna learn today. So one of those moments I had was God really pushing me towards making very solid and intentional steps at forgiving people in my life. And you would think that that's not so hard. In fact, for the longest time before that, I thought I already had, and I thought that it was enough. Fine, someone hurt me, fine, we're moving on, we are living better, we won't just hold on to that. I thought that was enough. And I think that not every situation has to mirror mine, but in my situation, I was specifically instructed to go and extend an olive branch. In my own humanity, do I want to actually run the risk of cutting through the peace I've taken so long to cultivate? Do I want to trigger myself? Do I want to instigate actually go out of my way to instigate situations whereby I'm reaching out to people and they may or may not reach out back, or worse, they may erupt and be very volatile. Look, I'm someone who really values their peace. And when I say really values their peace, I mean I really, really value my peace. I don't like fighting. I mean, if you want to square up, okay, I can't fight, but the point is, I really love peace. I love being in harmony, and I love being with the people I love in peace. Like, why do we need to fight? If we have beef, let's squash it, let's move on. That's my approach. That's the approach I prefer. And if we can't tolerate each other, I'm actually going to make steps to not engaging with you. And I had a situation actually too where I was very directly instructed to go and initiate engagement and not just forgive in my heart passively, but actively extend an olive branch. And wow, I can't even begin to describe how healing that was for me. These were people who matter in my life. I would love to say that, this was a fluke of a friendship, that, it's fine, no love was lost. It wasn't one of those moments. And it very much reminded me, and very quickly reminded me, that even when we don't understand God's instructions for our lives, we just need to oblige. I'm not gonna start pretending that I can wrestle with an omniscient being. And the reason for that is I am not an omniscient being. I don't know what's on the other side of that forgiveness. And while I'm aware that I did take that risk, and I know not everybody would, not everybody will hear or feel God tugging at their heart and then they oblige and obey. But I have learned also that through my own lack of obedience in previous situations, there's always something that you sacrifice with that. As they say, obedience comes, obedience as they say, obedience is better than sacrifice. I've also learned that through my obedience, certain blessings come your way. When you're the person who chooses to be the bigger person, even against people who have harmed you, maybe intentionally or not, and when you show grace to people, there are certain pockets of grace or even big breakthroughs that you could be experiencing just because of that. And it's only a factor or a byproduct of pride that would make someone feel like they are too stoic or too good to go and extend an olive branch to someone. And I know that those situations can be very risky depending on how aggrieved you were. But just picture this: in a situation where you've actually made peace with probably never engaging with someone again and being completely fine with that, and subsequently deciding, okay, it feels like this is what God wants, and I said that I'm going to do things His way now, so I guess we gotta do what we gotta do. We have to master the energy and we have to practice forgiveness. So that's something that definitely needs to walk with you in 2024 and beyond. And of course, that means that holding grudges, practicing unforgiveness, holding on to things that you really don't need to be holding on to, that's something you need to leave behind. That should be part of your skincare routine, in all honesty. Recently, in the last few weeks, I've had people approach me in public, maybe not few weeks, over the last maybe 2 months. Oh, wow, you look so happy. You have such a nice smile. And God did His thing. I'm grateful. But I think more than that, it's just being light in your heart. There's so many people that can talk to you now because your energy isn't boggled down by grudges and by feeling so dejected and rejected and objected, all of them. You just don't feel that way. And the reason why I have decided to become a lot more vocal about my faith isn't so that I can look holier than thou. I'm pretty sure there's many people who many people who might want to humble me real quick and remind me how unholy I once was. And that's completely fine. I don't care. But it's because I know better. So I just want to show someone else who might not have sufficient guidance how you can have better practices for your life. Let's face it, we live in a really weird time where there's so much stress, so much anxiety, so much depression, really high rates of suicide. It means that there's something within our society where we're just not able to be anchored. And I think that from not having an anchor, people are doing really difficult, really crazy things and coping with their pain in the worst and the most difficult ways, and in very self-destructive ways as well. And I think having conversations like this can help people see the light a little bit more. It doesn't take a day to see the light, wherever the light is, but it takes a lot of intentional thought and a lot of intentional effort. So, moving on to the next thing that we need to be dropping, and you need to be dropping, is oh, wow, who knew? That's the next point. So, the next thing is unbelief in God. Unbelief is something that I think is a very interesting word, because when we think of faith, we think, oh wow, the opposite of faith is fear. And that's true, but there's situations in the Bible where Jesus, I think it would be Jesus who would be telling people, oh wow, you have such great unbelief. He didn't tell people you have such great fear or you have such great X, insert different word. He would tell them you have such great unbelief. In my own journey, I've seen that this life, I was just like, okay, I'm 25 and I'm tired. How am I going to make it to 50, let alone 70, 80, 100, God willing? How am I going to make it to all those years if I am tired at 25? And when I did a little bit of troubleshooting, I saw that I was carrying so much. You know that TikTok sound for, this is why you look old, because you carry so much stress. I was carrying so much on my own, and I relearned the process of surrender. I actually hadn't realized I tapped out, which is one of the things that I think is very interesting about not noticing that you've backslidden. Is it happens so fast, and if you're not vigilant and if you're not careful, it's going to happen to you, because there's so many competing factors. I'm just gonna be raw. When it comes to backsliding, there's drugs that you can indulge in, there's alcohol, there are all these people who wanna do with you. There's so many vices around. It's actually not hard to cave in. And I know that even me being very positional about this is maybe a bit countercultural, because even the TikTok sounds and the jokes we have, there's so much more vulgarness now than maybe just 10 years ago. And we need to ask ourselves why we're normalizing this behavior, why we're normalizing certain things in our culture. And when it comes to unbelief, I realized, wow, I'm carrying so much, and I didn't realize I had moved so far away from where I was initially, where it would just be like I'm talking to God every day, every second, and not like a crazy person. I'm just talking about like my small thoughts or my small little anxieties or my goals. And when I realized that, there was a lot of unforgiveness for myself, but I let go of that eventually. But I realized, wow, okay, I can actually get back to how I was before. And it's just been a few months down the line, and I can tell you that the change is impeccable for me. Those people who are out here talking about, oh, I don't need God, you are strong. Hats off to you. I'm praying for you, but I mean, hats off to you in the sense where I don't understand how someone can live this life without God. How do you even address your issues? Like, How are you not going crazy? I think there are some people who actually are very stable, and I think I would say that God's grace shines upon them despite what they realize or not don't realize. And that's not me trying to be patronizing, those are just my thoughts. And I also think that having a godless society, not having God in our conversations, has led us to some of the wickedness that we see. It's very easy for people to be wicked now. We see so many videos of people getting attacked by intimate partners. We see intimate partner violence. We're seeing even in-house violence. We're seeing so many wicked things that if you truly know God, if you've had a real encounter with God, with Jesus, or if you just have a moral conscience, no matter what your creed religion is, you just wouldn't be able to do that or to tolerate that. And I think that's something that is definitely we need to drop collectively. And right now I just want to talk to all the lukewarm Christians out there. Hello, hi, how you doing? I know that you probably think that the long and narrow path is not only unnecessary but difficult and unrealistic. And I hear some of those critiques. It's definitely not easy. And not to say that I'm a master of any sort when it comes to that, but I can tell you for sure that the momentary pleasures that you think you are gaining in the process of not fully yielding to God are going to harm you more than they're going to help you. The little friends you think you're gaining, the cool friends you think you're gaining, who really probably don't care about you, in all honesty, and we can prove that. Just introduce a fake life crisis and you'll see just how many care about you, and you'll see just how many actually care about you. How can someone care about you deeply if they don't even have a heart for God, And I think something we really need to think about as a society is just, and as lukewarm Christians, I speak for that community. Something we really need to think about is, who is your God really? And I think, if you're being honest, there's times in my life where I've actually had conversations with God, like, okay, God, you know what, this is too much for me, so the audacity, but I'm just gonna shelve this whole God thing for now. But at least I was honest about that. What I think is hypocritical is for you to literally be plastering popular verse like Psalms 23 on your bio, and then you make the rest of us look bad when we hear, oh yeah, this person's always cheating on their girlfriend. They actually have like so many people. It's such a casual thing. They literally are just snorting coke all the time. You would think I'm joking. These are actually real life stories I'm talking about. And it isn't to say that that person is wicked and bad in and of themselves, but you're struggling with hypocrisy. And in all honesty, whatever you do it with a full chest. Don't plaster the label God to your weird things. Girl, I'm struggling not to curse. Don't plaster the name of God into the things that you're doing, and in the end pretend that you're doing something when you really know your heart's not in it. Yeah, so that was on unbelief in God. So right now, my new attitude, and the attitude that I would prescribe for you, was to just embrace God even when you're not sure what you're doing. Embrace God, embrace having real, raw, rough, rugged conversations with Him about the things that you would have wanted to go differently in your life, about the things that you're struggling with, because people come to God with this attitude of two main attitudes. The begging bowl, where He's a genie in a bottle, so you're just gonna be approaching Him when you need something. That's not a relationship. If you think about it, if that was a person, you would probably call that abusive. And the other way people approach God is with this attitude of, it's not real. You're not being your real true self. It's almost as if you're treating Him like you want to be a teacher's pet. You're showing all your good sides, pretending like He can't see all the things you're struggling with. You're going to prayer saying thank you for all the things, even the bad things that you really don't want. And you're in this process denying yourself the ability of having a real, raw, honest conversation with him, and therefore even denying yourself intimacy in the end. I think I've definitely experienced both. That's why I'm able to call it out properly. So closely related to realizing that I cannot figure it out all on my own is having unbelief in myself. That's something that needs to go. Having unbelief in myself, not having enough faith in myself. That's a very defeating attitude to have. I've always been someone who, I don't even think I've ever realized it until I didn't have it, but I've always been someone who, I just do my own thing. I execute my goals. I don't think too much about them. I execute them. I move. We move. Life goes on. And for a long time, that trait made me struggle with understanding people who have a difficult time believing in themselves. But with time, I've had a lot more opportunities where I can have more compassion for that kind of person, and even hold space for them. Because before I'd be like, oh, okay, why are you holding yourself back? Like, I just couldn't understand it. And it wasn't because of being self-righteous. I just honestly didn't know how to empathize with that, which I'm a pretty empathetic person, I believe. And that was just something that never clicked for me until I experienced a time where everything in my life was going so haywire that I just didn't know how to believe in myself anymore. Even the word believe was strong. Like, even just having enough faith to go day by day and believe I can do something. I would take so long to even plan things because I just used to have so much anxiety around them. And I'm so thankful to God for taking me away from those thinking patterns. But it was difficult because when you don't believe in yourself, what can you really do? Especially if you're in the middle of a crisis, you need to surmount the strength to leave the crisis. Now, if you can't even believe in yourself enough to do that, what are you really going to do? So it was this endless cycle of starting something, leaving it halfway, trying to help myself again, starting, leaving it halfway, realizing that I need to do it. It was just such a ruthless cycle, and I would not wish it on my worst enemy. Funny enough, it was also within a time where I was going through very heavy spiritual attack, and I could feel it. I didn't even know what that was at that point, but I knew with my intuition, and I'm so glad I have a good one. I knew there was something off. I didn't know what it was. I didn't really understand, but I knew there was something off. And because God lives, He found me ways to troubleshoot my problem. But unbelief in self is something that is so difficult because it will make you work against yourself. In fact, you can have such acute unbelief in yourself that even when other people believe in you, you want to stop them. And that's called self-sabotage. You want to make people, you want to work against your own good, and not because you actually want to, but because you're leaning into a comfort zone that's actually destructive. I think I've mentioned it on this channel before, but if you struggle with self-sabotage, a book that you might want to read is called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist. I think Weist is the name. Brianna Weist. A really good book. And I think the thing that makes me really like the book is that it actually gives you a step-by-step explanation as to how you can become so self-sabotaging. I mean, it beats rationality to think that someone could be out there literally, let's say they have a great relationship, they've been trying to nurture it, but all of a sudden, because of a fear of intimacy, they actually start to push their partner away, things of that nature. Self-sabotage is horrible, and I think unbelief in self is really bad in this world where there's so many factors coming against you, starting with the economy, because oh my god, that's actually gotten so bad. I wish I was literally becoming an adult in the same financial times as, let's say, my parents' generation, because everything for them was so affordable. everything was so affordable. My point is that when you are working against your own good, it's going to show. There's so much that's already working against you. Why do you want to add yourself to that list? That's something that definitely needs to leave the chat. If you want to have a good year, that is. And if you actually are serious and intentional about being happy, you just can't do that to yourself. So you have to get to the bottom of what you need to get to the bottom of, and you need to cut it off. So the next thing I'm getting rid of, I'm not going to be tolerating people who don't allow me to make mistakes. Now, that's not for everybody. That's for people who maybe have a people-pleasing tendency, or people who you're always just trying to show up for your friends and your family, but then you are met with acute critique when you maybe make a mistake once or twice. It's for you. It's not for the person who's always abusing people and you just want people to tolerate whatever nonsense you do. That's not for you. And if that's you, just remove yourself from this part of the video. For me, I've learned that if it's going to be very easy for you to let go of me, if I've been doing my best, I might as well not have you around. And I'll give you an example. Showing up for people, showing up for their events, supporting them, and seeing and stretching yourself to the max for people who wouldn't do the same for you is completely dead. There's so much joy in reciprocity. And even if maybe you're in a position where you don't think that you'd be able to make friends, or you just want acceptance, it's so much more fulfilling to have people reciprocate all the good energy that you send them your way. I think one of the most impactful things in my adult friendships is realizing that even when we don't all have the capacity to show up for each other, that once or twice in a quarter that we meet, we are fully present for each other. And that's only because we are showing up for each other fully. Now, when it comes to this, I also think that having people who expect nothing but perfection from you is unrealistic and is unfair, because you don't even realize just how destructive these things are until one day you realize, wow, in this relationship, I'm always the one who's showing up. I'm always the one who's doing their best. I'm always getting critiqued when I don't. Honestly, bye-bye. And no hard feelings, no love lost. But if that's how you run your show, I don't want to be a part of it. And I'm not going to change my mind. It is what it is. The next thing is arguing with people. I don't like to argue with people, and I think for me, I need to check myself, because I'm a very passionate person. So when I believe in something, I probably want to share it with you, but I've seen that sometimes people don't have arguments based off of truth. They don't have arguments from a clean point of view where I actually want to see if you have something more valid to share. Sometimes it's just that maybe that's who they are. Maybe they have a bad habit of arguing with people, or they could just probably not have the best intentions and they just want to get you all riled up and for nothing. And if you want to argue with people endlessly, it steals so much peace. I think a common theme that we can draw from the last few videos over the last few weeks is that we are definitely leaning more into peace, and this time with a little bit more radicalness and a little less of being apologetic about it, with more radicalness and more unapologeticness to it. Because I think you get to a point where you're just like, something has to change. Enough is enough. Okay, I've been on TikTok a lot because I really like that app. It's so informative, especially when you're following people, creators that you like. And I know that right now, in this point of the year, this is a point where people are actually having real conversations. The shift typically happens around March or April, where people fall back into their old ways, whatever that is, or the gym suddenly has less people. And I think that's usually really funny, but you need to have a conversation with yourself. You need to sit yourself down in your mind and decide enough is enough. I don't know what your why is. I know what my why is. And I can tell you, enough is enough. You need to learn how to be more demanding of yourself. Whether you're going to need to make sacrifices, sleep less, do with meet certain people less, enough is enough. In close connection to not arguing with people, I think something that I've shared over the years on this channel is a habit that I used to have based off of my environment that I dropped, and that's been so rewarding, is not feeling the need to explain myself. Honestly, if I'm okay with myself, if God is okay with me, the rest of you can just, no offense, but like, it is what it is. You don't need to be happy, you don't need to agree with me, you don't need to support me, actually. And I know sometimes when people say those kinds of things, I used to perceive it as they sound so jaded. Sometimes you're actually just tired of having letdowns, and it's not that you even want or anticipate for them to happen. It's just that you're genuinely okay with whatever the outcome may be. And when you have that kind of non-attachment to the outcome, things tend to just flow a lot better, flow a lot easier, and you're a lot less worked up about the arguments you had with people. In fact, honestly, people volunteer gossip to me, and it's just like, I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what you want me to do with this information, especially if it's something I really don't have the brain space for. Because right now, I'm just trying to create my best life. So, and of course, we have like these little moments where we high five, we talk, we giggle, we maybe even have a little bit of like some small gossip. But you are not gonna catch me dead talking about someone's husband, someone's wife, someone's boyfriend. Oh, walifanya, oh, wakafanya hivi, and then like that's not for me. And if you're actually invested in that, you're probably not gonna be my friend, because most of my friends, we don't really have those kinds of conversations. Yeah, we sip the tea and talk about things, but not with this energy where we are so heavily invested in people's lives and that's all we do. That's dead, and you need to kill it in 2024 if it's not dead for you already. So thank you so much for coming to the end of this video, and thank you so much for joining me and just tuning back into this channel. I would love to hear your feedback on the videos we've been having more recently. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I've missed you so much. I think I've been saying that a lot, and it's because it's true. I've missed you so much, and I can't wait to connect more in the comments. I always try and respond to each and every single comment, so please don't be shy. Tell me where you're from, let me know what your name is, tell me what you're dropping as the year progresses and as the year continues to unfold. Tell me what you resonate with most on this list, and I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. Bye. How does it look with me holding it like this? Perfect, actually. I think I found a perfect hold. But my point is, what was my point? My point is, I'm trying to remember what it was. Following closely is following closely, something that you need to drop the second. There's a reason why they say bad habits corrupt good morals. What's that saying? Bad habits corrupt good morals. Bad company. Got it. Yay. 2 minutes. Okay, we can cut and start again. Guy, you see how the time flies when you talk.